Welcome back to our channel. Have you ever wondered how something as small and ordinary as a dime could hold a story worth telling for hours? A history that feels like you've opened a secret chapter in the world of numismatics, and a value so shocking that it could change your life in an instant? Imagine this: you're sorting through a jar of coins, maybe something you've been tossing spare change into for years, not thinking much about it. You pick up a dime from 1978, the familiar profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt staring back at you. It's a design you've seen countless times before. But then, something catches your eye. It's subtle at first. A slightly off-center strike, a curious doubling of letters, or perhaps a faint but unusual mark that shouldn't be there. And that's when the realization hits. This isn't just any dime. This is one of those rare 1978 US one-dime coin errors that have made collectors' hearts race and auction paddles fly into the air. And believe it or not, in pristine condition, some of these extraordinary error coins have fetched between $66,000 and $134,000 at auction. That IT sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? A coin that the US Mint produced in the millions, suddenly standing apart from the rest because of an error, an imperfection that, instead of diminishing its value, skyrocketed it. But that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not always the perfection that's prized. Sometimes it's the quirks, the unexpected mishaps, the tiny deviations from the norm that transform something common into a treasure. The 1978 Roosevelt dime isn't an especially old coin. Not like the 19th century rarities that are locked away in museum vaults. But in the right circumstances, with the right error, it's every bit as valuable as some of the most coveted coins in American history. To understand why, we have to step back for a moment and look at the context. In 1978, the United States Mint was already decades into producing the Roosevelt dime, a design introduced in 1946 to honor the late president. These dimes were struck in copper-nickel clad after the Mint discontinued silver coinage in 1965, making them highly durable but not particularly glamorous to collectors, unless, of course, something unusual happened during production. And in coin minting, unusual can mean everything from a misaligned die to an off-metal strike to a dramatic double die that changes the way the design appears under a loupe. Now, when you think about the minting process, you have to picture immense machinery striking blank planchets with thousands of pounds of pressure, over and over again, day after day. The process is designed for precision, but when you're working at such high speed, mistakes can and do happen. A die might shift slightly, creating a misaligned strike. A planchet intended for a different denomination might slip into the feed, producing an off-metal coin. Or, more subtly, a die might have been engraved twice in slightly different positions, causing the letters and numbers to appear doubled. These are the kinds of mint errors that can make a coin like the 1978 dime incredibly valuable. But it's not just the error itself that creates the value, it's the rarity, the condition, and the demand. A dramatic error is always exciting, but if there are hundreds of examples floating around, the price won't climb as high. What sets some of the 1978 dimes apart is that certain errors are extremely scarce, and when they appear in high-grade condition, often graded mint state by professional services, they become the centerpiece of a serious collector's portfolio. Imagine being one of only a handful of people in the world to own a coin with that exact striking flaw, knowing that it's been preserved for decades in nearly perfect condition. That exclusivity is what drives prices into the tens of thousands, and in the case of certain 1978 error dimes, well into the six-figure range. One story that still circulates among coin enthusiasts involves a collector at a small-town estate sale who spotted what looked like an ordinary dime among a tray of loose coins. He picked it up, turned it under the light, and noticed a faint but unmistakable doubling on the date and the word Liberty. He bought the tray for a few dollars, not entirely certain of what he had, but hopeful. Months later, after submitting it to a grading service, the verdict came back. It was an extremely rare 1978 Roosevelt dime with a dramatic double die obverse, in an unusually high grade. When it went to auction, the bidding was fierce, and it eventually sold for just under $100,000. The coin had been sitting unnoticed for decades, and now it was the star of a numismatic event. This is the kind of story that makes collectors dream and casual hobbyists start checking their pocket change more carefully. Another factor that plays into the mystique of coins like this is the human connection to history. A 1978 dime may not seem like ancient history, but think about what was happening in America at the time. The country was still adjusting to a post-Vietnam, post-Watergate era. The economy was shifting, inflation was a concern, and cultural trends were changing rapidly. People were listening to disco, watching new blockbusters like Grease and Superman, and yet here was the US Mint quietly striking millions of these little copper-nickel dimes, some of which would carry rare and valuable mistakes. It's a slice of everyday history, preserved in metal. For the seasoned collector, spotting one of these coins requires a trained eye and patience. Many 1978 dimes will look perfectly normal at first glance, and even a small error can be missed without magnification. That's why experienced numismatists often use high-powered loupes or digital microscopes to inspect each coin. They know that the tiniest doubling of a letter or an unusual spacing in the design could mean the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth $66,000 to $134,000. The thrill is in the hunt, and for those who find one, the reward can be life-changing. Of course, once you have a coin like this, the question becomes, what do you do with it? Some collectors choose to hold onto their treasures, enjoying the satisfaction of ownership and the potential for future appreciation in value. Others can't resist the lure of the auction block, where bidding wars between determined collectors can push prices to jaw-dropping levels. There's a particular energy in a live auction when a rare coin comes up, an almost electric tension as bidders weigh the cost against the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to claim a piece of history. And when the gavel finally falls and the winning bid is announced, it's not just a financial transaction. It's the closing chapter of one coin's journey and the beginning of another. Even if you never stumble across a six-figure coin in your own change, stories like these have a way of drawing people into the world of numismatics. They remind us that history isn't just in dusty books or behind museum glass. It's in our pockets, in the coins we handle every day without thinking. And every so often, one of those coins carries a secret, a flaw that transforms it from ordinary to extraordinary. So, the next time you find yourself holding a dime from 1978, take a moment to really look at it. Check the date. Examine the lettering. Tilt it under the light. You never know, you might be holding a piece of minting history, a small metal disc with a story far bigger than its size, and if you're lucky, a value that could range from $66,000 to $134,000. In the end, that's the magic of collecting. It's not just about the metal or the money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the connection to the past, and the knowledge that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprises. Today's story takes us deep into the history of the United States Mint and into the heart of coin collecting, to talk about a coin that looks so ordinary to the casual observer yet hides a rarity that could turn it into a small fortune for the right person. Imagine picking up a coin you've had in your possession for years. Maybe it's been sitting in a jar of loose change, maybe it passed through your hands without a second thought, and discovering it's not just worth 10 cents, but an astonishing sum between $50,000 and $118,000. This is the story of the 1990 US one-dime coin error, and as we unravel its mystery, you'll see why this small piece of metal commands such incredible value in the numismatic market. To understand why the 1990 US dime error is so fascinating, we first need to look at the context in which it was minted. The 1990s were a transitional period for coin production in the United States. While the designs on our coins had been long established, the Roosevelt dime having been in circulation since 1946, the minting process itself had evolved, with improvements in technology and quality control. Yet, even with the most advanced equipment, human oversight, and rigorous inspection processes, errors still slip through, and it is these errors that create some of the most sought-after coins among collectors. A mint error is not just a mistake. It's a piece of history that captures a rare anomaly in a process designed to produce uniformity. And when such an error happens to be rare enough, collectors are willing to pay astonishing amounts to own it. The 1990 dime error we're discussing isn't your everyday misstrike or a slightly off-center coin. It's a combination of rarity, historical context, and sheer collector demand that makes it so valuable. Some of these error coins exhibit missing elements in the design, doubling in inscriptions, or even anomalies caused by planchet preparation. Each specific variety of error has its own appeal, but the common thread is that these mistakes occurred in such limited numbers that finding one today is like finding a needle in a haystack. For a collector, that rarity translates directly into value, and when bidding wars erupt at auctions, prices can soar far beyond the expectations of casual observers. This is exactly how some examples of the 1990 dime have reached that jaw-dropping range of $50,000 to $118,000. Imagine for a moment the scene in a coin auction room. A 1990 error dime is placed under the bright lights. The audience leans forward in anticipation, and the bidding starts. It might begin in the low thousands, but as the uniqueness of the coin is discussed, its perfect preservation, the clarity of the error, the historical documentation, the bids climb steadily. 10,000 becomes 20, 20 becomes 40, and soon you're watching an intense battle between determined collectors who both understand just how rare this coin is. Before you know it, the hammer falls at an amount that could pay off a car, cover a year's worth of college tuition, or even make a serious dent in a mortgage. That's the magic of numismatics, Small metal objects turning into life-changing sums of money. The allure of the 1990 dime era is also tied to the Roosevelt dime's place in American history. Introduced just a year after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1945, this coin was intended to honor his legacy, particularly his association with the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio. For decades, the design remained essentially unchanged, making the dime a familiar and often overlooked piece of currency in everyday transactions. But among millions upon millions of perfectly normal examples, a tiny fraction slipped through with errors, and those are the coins that collectors dream about. The 1990 minting errors are particularly intriguing because they occurred at a time when the mint was under heavy scrutiny to maintain quality, making their escape into circulation even more remarkable. If you're wondering how such a coin could end up in your possession, the answer is simple: mint errors often go unnoticed in day-to-day use. Unless someone is actively looking for discrepancies, an error coin can easily pass through countless hands without raising suspicion. A slightly misplaced inscription, a faint doubling, or a missing mint mark might be dismissed as wear and tear by the untrained eye. This is why coin collectors always stress the importance of carefully examining your change, especially coins from years known for rare varieties. Who knows, you might have a 1990 dime error sitting in a drawer or tucked away in a coin jar right now, worth a sum far greater than its face value. Collectors value these coins not just for their rarity, but for the stories they tell. Every mint error is a frozen moment in time, a reminder that even in highly controlled systems, perfection is never guaranteed. It's also a testament to the passion of the numismatic community, which spends countless hours searching, cataloging, and preserving these treasures. The 1990 dime error embodies all of these qualities. It's rare, it's historically significant, and it's undeniably beautiful to those who appreciate the fine details of coin design. Add to that the fact that one can be worth as much as $118,000, and you have the recipe for a truly captivating piece of numismatic history. Over the years, stories have emerged of lucky finds in the most unexpected places. A collector in the Midwest once discovered a 1990 dime error at the bottom of a family coin jar, mixed in with pennies, nickels, and other dimes from various decades. It had been there for years, unnoticed, until a decision to sort through the jar for fun revealed its hidden worth. Another example turned up in a small-town bank, where a teller noticed something odd about a dime in a deposit. After a closer inspection, it turned out to be an error coin that would later fetch tens of thousands at auction. These stories fuel the thrill of the hunt, inspiring both seasoned collectors and complete beginners to look more closely at their coins. The condition of the coin also plays a huge role in its value. In numismatics, the grading system is a meticulous process that evaluates everything from wear and luster to strike quality and surface marks. A 1990 dime error in poor condition might still be worth hundreds or even thousands, but the examples in near mint or mint state, those that look almost exactly as they did the day they were struck, are the ones that command the top prices, reaching that remarkable $50,000 to $118,000 range. This is why collectors go to great lengths to protect their finds, often storing them in protective holders or cases that prevent environmental damage and handling. Where when you hold a coin like this in your hand, you're holding more than just money. You're holding a fragment of history, a product of both human craftsmanship and human imperfection. The 1990 dime error is a shining example of how something small and seemingly insignificant can capture the imagination, spark competition, and ultimately change lives. Whether you're a serious collector, a casual enthusiast, or someone who simply enjoys the thrill of the hunt, the story of this coin serves as a reminder to always keep your eyes open. The next time you get change at a store or sift through coins at home, take a moment to look closely. The difference between 10 cents and $118,000 could be sitting right there in your palm, waiting for you to notice. The fascinating thing about numismatics is that the hunt never truly ends. Each new discovery fuels the desire to keep searching, to learn more, and to add another prized piece to the collection. For some, it's about the potential financial reward, but for many, it's about the joy of finding something unique, something that tells a story no other coin can. The 1990 US 1 dime error has all the elements of a legendary numismatic treasure: rarity, history, beauty, and value. And somewhere out there, perhaps in a pocket, a drawer, or a dusty old jar, another one might be waiting to be found. The only question is, will you be the one to find it? The story of this coin starts, as so many rare coin stories do, not in a collector's auction house, but deep in the bustling production lines of the United States Mint. The year was 1993, a time when billions of coins were being struck to keep up with the demands of the American economy. On any given day, presses were churning out thousands of dimes an hour, stamping perfect images of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on one side and the iconic torch, olive branch, and oak branch design on the other. The process was designed for precision. After all, the mint's reputation rested on producing currency that was uniform, consistent, and exact. But no system is flawless. And in this instance, a tiny mistake somewhere in the process created a coin so unusual and so rare that collectors today are willing to pay unbelievable sums to own it. To understand what makes this 1993 dime so special, you have to know a little about how coins are made. Each coin starts as a blank metal disc called a planchet. This planchet is fed into a press where it's struck between two dies, one for the obverse, front, and one for the reverse, back. The dies are like super precise stamps, transferring the design into the metal with thousands of pounds of pressure. The problem is, dies wear out over time. They can crack, they can chip, and they can even be misaligned. And in rare cases, the wrong dies or planchets can be fed into the machine. That's where error coins come from, and those errors are the lifeblood of serious coin collectors. The 1993 US dime error we're talking about today is one of those coins that slips through the cracks, literally and figuratively. The details of the error vary depending on the specimen, but one famous version involves a dramatic misalignment, where the strike was off-center, leaving part of the design missing and a portion of the blank planchet visible. Another involves a striking on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning the dime was minted on a metal disc meant for a different coin, sometimes a penny or a foreign coin planchet. Errors like these aren't just odd, they're extremely rare, and they become exponentially more valuable when they occur on a relatively modern coin like one from 1993. Now, you might be thinking, 1993 doesn't sound like ancient history. In fact, you might even have a whole roll of dimes from the 1990s sitting in a drawer. But here's the kicker. Finding one of these error coins in circulation today is almost like winning the lottery. The vast majority of them were either caught and destroyed at the mint or quietly disappeared into the hands of collectors years ago. The few that remain in the wild could be anywhere. At the bottom of a coin jar, slipped into your change at a gas station, or hidden in an old coffee can in your grandmother's attic. That's why collectors are willing to pay top dollar for one when it surfaces. Imagine showing up at a coin show with what you think is a weird, slightly damaged dime, only to have an expert tell you it's worth enough to buy a new car. Suddenly, that little piece of change becomes the star of the show. Auction houses have seen these coins sell for jaw-dropping figures, sometimes reaching that incredible range of $44,000 to $110,000. And it's not just about the money. For serious numismatists, owning such a coin is about holding a piece of minting history, a tangible artifact of a mistake that was never meant to happen. Collectors look for a few key signs when trying to identify one of these elusive 1993 dime errors. The first is the strike quality. An off-center strike is one of the most noticeable errors, with part of the design missing and a crescent of blank space along the edge. Another sign is unusual weight or thickness, which might indicate the coin was struck on the wrong planchet. Then there are die cracks, tiny raised lines on the coin where the die itself split during striking. Each of these errors tells a story about what happened in the mint that day, and each adds to the coin's mystique. The beauty of this story is that the coin itself, despite its massive potential value, looks perfectly ordinary at first glance to most people. It's small, it's silver in color, and it fits in the palm of your hand just like any other dime. But to those in the know, it's a treasure, proof that even in the age of industrial precision, imperfections still sneak through, and sometimes, those imperfections are worth a fortune. There's also a fascinating psychological side to coins like this. They remind us that value isn't always about the materials. After all, the dime's face value is just 10 cents. It's about rarity, demand, and the stories we attach to objects. In the world of collecting, a coin like this is a conversation starter, an investment, and a point of pride all rolled into one. And every time one appears at auction, it reignites the thrill of the hunt for countless collectors. So, what's the takeaway here? Simple. Never overlook your change. Check every coin before you spend it. Because somewhere out there, one of these 1993 US dime errors might still be waiting to be discovered. And if you're the one who finds it, you could be holding a piece of minting history worth between $44,000 and $110,000. That's a pretty incredible return on 10 cents. This is the kind of story that makes numismatics so endlessly fascinating. It's not just about coins. It's about the people, the mistakes, the history, and the magic of finding something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. And for the lucky few who own one of these rare dimes, it's a constant reminder that sometimes, the smallest treasures are the most valuable.